I, 43M, try to do my best to provide for my wife, 38F, and 2 kids, aged 3 and 5, as well as my mother-in-law, and I would like to think I'm doing a decent job. Over the years, I have worked to improve our family's living situation. Not only did I complete another bachelor's and, recently, a master's in a STEM-related degree, but I also worked 2 full-time jobs while completing my second bachelor's and put my wife through school as well. She completed a degree where she could make good money, 60-70K a year, in a healthcare field that always has jobs available. However, with the birth of our 2 kids, she has since given up on her career to be a stay-at-home mom for the time being. At first, it was a struggle while I was finishing up my master's. Once I completed it and our youngest turned 3, my career took a jump up, now 150K with bonuses, and we are now able to afford our single-income household in a more feasible manner. We're far from rich, but we do okay for a single-income family of 4. This past year, life was overwhelming for my wife, so even though I now work 75% from home, I budgeted to hire a daytime nanny to help her around the house with one child while the other is in school. My day starts every day around 5:30 to 6 a.m. I get the house ready for the day before the nanny comes at 8 a.m. I get our oldest up and ready for school, make breakfast, plan out my day, bring our oldest to school, and be home in time to let the nanny in. My most recent task at work has me grounded for the next 2 months, meaning I am now 100% working from home. While this is nice, I am busy in meetings all day as my role manages teams on a global scale and I oversee projects for my industry. For the past 1.5 months, I realized that, despite my wife saying her life is stressful at home, she starts her day at 10 a.m. I asked my mother-in-law and the nanny if this was always the case after a week or so of working from home, and they both responded more or less that sometimes she starts earlier, sometimes later. My wife literally wakes up, cooks, and then scrolls through her phone or shops from home, which brings me to my gripe. I am glad I am able to provide her that sort of life since we both grew up lacking in means. I understand the possibility of postpartum depression, the stress of having kids, the feeling of being unfulfilled, and the fact that I might be a lousy husband. But for what it's worth, everything is taken care of and then some. I manage the household finances, because she claimed she was too busy to do so, pay all the household bills, pay my own personal bills, pay her bills, track and perform all the upkeep of our house appliances, cars, pets, etc., and I also help pay for my mother-in-law's medical bills and car note. But apparently, my life is on easy street compared to hers. I can't decompress to her because it seems like she always feels the need to one-up me. I had a bad day, but she had it worse because I'm lucky I got to go away and work. My feet hurt from walking all day during work travel, but that's nothing compared to her standing and cooking with a child clinging to her. For the past 2 years or so, I've been told I ruined her life, her opportunities, etc., but when I remind her of what she says, she denies and dodges accountability. My mother-in-law has taken me aside and stated she's noticed a change in both myself and my wife. I have a greater attachment to my kids, and I've hugged the dogs and talked to them more about my life than to my wife. I honestly feel like I am in emotional survival mode as I'm one step from moving up the career ladder and one step away from finding love and comfort at the bottom of a whiskey bottle. I'm sure I'll be hearing from the manly men of Reddit about how I'm simping, but I'm not a machine. I just want to know and feel that someone I prioritize, aside from my kids, appreciates and loves me for what I do. I'm sure I'll hear from the stay-at-home moms of Reddit, which is fine. I grew up in a single-parent household with my mother. It's not easy, and honestly, with the help of her mother and a nanny from Monday to Friday for one toddler while another child is at school, can you honestly tell me she's having the typical stay-at-home mom experience? Neither my friends nor colleagues who are single parents can say she is. I'm sure the masses of holier-than-thou Redditors will consider this a poorly written fanfic, but it is what it is. Edit. When I was asked what I'm getting out of the marriage, aside from my 2 beautiful kids, I've been asking myself the same question. We have a nearly non-existent bedroom life, especially since last year. I always figured maybe it's part of depression or whatever she may be going through. Maybe I'm just not attractive enough or horrible in bed because of my health conditions. I'm not a supermodel husband, but temptation and opportunity do knock, and I can still perform. However, I never give in because, as cliche as it sounds, I honestly do love my wife and want to be only with her. I'll give credit where credit is due, as I don't want to sound biased. When I say she wakes up and cooks, she cooks for everyone in the house, myself, the kids, my mother-in-law, and even the nanny. Aside from breakfast, she cooks all meals and snacks. I typically fast until lunchtime, and our oldest tends to eat a small, simple breakfast in case they don't like what the school serves that morning. She also loads both the kids and her laundry but seldom folds and puts them away. I typically do my own laundry, and the rest of my clothes I dry clean because they're work clothes. She keeps track of our pantry and fridge, but after she makes the list, I'm the one who goes out and buys everything, if not delivered. She cleans our bathrooms and house 50% of the time. The other 50% is done by either my mother-in-law, myself, or sometimes the nanny if she feels like being extra helpful. Prior to the nanny, my mother-in-law was the main help for my wife until she had unexpected medical needs. So, I opted to hire a nanny to help both of them, especially when my mother-in-law is undergoing treatments and recovering. As a whole family, including her parents and mine, we have tried to get her to go to therapy, but she refuses or skirts around the issue. Update 1. Not sure if anyone will read this, but thank you to those who have reached out and chatted. While I know I've kept my newfound friends here updated, I figured I would update my post and keep it short. I showed my wife my post the following weekend, and she read it along with all the comments. Long story short, we argued, she left our house to stay with her sister, and I've been a single parent since then. It's sad to say, but aside from the good nights to our kids, it's all pretty much the same routine. Nothing much else to say other than, thank you for all the kind words of encouragement. Just need to add, this post got bigger than I expected from a venting post, but I've responded to a few comments. Nonetheless, thank you for the comments and DMs, and more so for the offers to let me ruin your life, lol. It's been the highlight of my day and night as I sit here drinking with my dog while everyone else is asleep. It feels depressingly sad that I have to turn to random internet strangers for some sort of validation in my rant. Update 2. I just wanted to update those who have been kind enough to check up via DM and comments on my situation from 2 months ago. It's a bit of irony and coincidence that I'm making a follow-up update during Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, but I could really use another outlet outside of my therapist. My apologies if this isn't the storybook ending or the destruction of a relationship people were hoping for. To save you a read, my wife left, came back like nothing happened, made it about her, and nothing's changed. I'm continuing to suffer mentally, knowing nothing will change while trying to keep it together for our kids. The day after she packed up and left, my wife attempted to come back and take the kids with her to her sister's. Naturally, I was against this, and thankfully so was her whole family, including said sister. Not only was it unfair to our kids to sweep them away into a home that's not theirs, but it would also put financial and housing stress on the rest of her family since she doesn't work. Her sister and her family, which is essentially her husband and 3 kids, stay with their dad in the house they grew up in. After a little over a week of being away, I guess she cooled off and decided it would be fine if she walked in the door with her bags as if she just came back from Target. She came into my office while I was working and angrily stared at me while I sat on a conference call meeting with my team, and I couldn't just jump off as this is a busy time of the quarter for us. I guess that didn't sit well with her because once I took off my headset and closed my laptop, she started yelling at me about how much I really don't care about her and her well-being overall. At that moment, I couldn't do anything more than look at her and just shake my head. My mother-in-law came in after hearing my wife yelling and pulled her away, telling her not to bother me, while our nanny kept our youngest away from it all on the other side of the house. That night, after the kids were put to bed, I sat in my office by myself with a drink, as I have been doing for the past few nights. My wife came in. We talked, we argued, we cried, and we drank. One thing led to another, and we ended up in bed. I wish I could say that was our making up, but the next sobering morning as we lay there, she went on about how hard it was for her while she was gone. Literally, it was about her struggle staying at her family's house in her old room with her dad and sister's family. She talked about how lucky I am to be able to stay here, do this and that, buy this or that, and not stress as much as they did. She kept emphasizing how easy my life and everyone else's lives in our family are compared to hers, even though we had similar upbringings. My mind and heart broke that morning. I've been spiraling down since then, and this last week, I made another attempt to reconcile and talk things out, but I was met with a shouting match while trying to express my current stress and anxieties with life and work in general. One of the core things I remember her saying was, well, do you know how hard this is all for me? You're supposed to help me be happy. And I said, so what about when it comes to my happiness, stress, needs, and overall well-being? To that, she said, we all have our own problems. You need to figure it out and get over them. I don't know who the woman I am at home with is, but she wasn't the woman I married and vowed to spend my life with and raise our kids together. Since that conversation, I've been noticeably distant from her. I've been sleeping in my office, on the couch, or with my kids in their bed after putting either one of them to sleep. It still doesn't change her starting her day at 10 a.m. and sitting on her phone, talking to her mom groups between cooking meals, with the kids in both my mother-in-law's and the nanny's care. Nothing has changed, and I doubt that anything will change. Sadly, I think even if we got a divorce, nothing would change or feel different anyway since, during my wife's absence, the days seemed like any other day, except with a little more food delivery than usual. My main fear isn't just losing my wife but also losing my kids in the process. So, I guess it's sad to say that the grand finale to my story, like for many men and some women I've talked to here, is that I'll just continue to smile and suffer in silence. Edit. First off, thank you for all the comments and DMs. Some context and clarification since, admittedly, my post was emotionally charged as I typed it up after another argument. Post-birth, our kid's pediatrician's office gave my wife those postpartum depression screening forms, and she scored pretty high both times, suggesting she should see a therapist. With our second child, she scored significantly higher, and I made an effort to get her the help she needed. She refused, so my mother-in-law and the nanny stepped in for support. I know what people will say or think, but this is one of the reasons I am not 100% ready to just give up and file our life together away. Also, I know silently suffering in the near and long run of our kids' future will not add to a healthy atmosphere, but neither would a bitter and hate-filled divorce. I know some have compared it to ripping off a bandage, saying it'll hurt at first but that pain goes away. However, I'd rather try to spare my kids from thinking their parents ended up hating each other because of them or something along those lines. I've told a few people I talked to in DM since my last post a little more insight into my personal life. Prior to my promotion, I was a PM managing teams and budgets, so out of habit, I planned for a lot of what-ifs. That being said, I made a number of contingency plans if, sadly, things went south. So, yes, I have talked to a lawyer, actually 3. I know our rights and what each of us is entitled to. I have a draft settlement created and on hold until I feel I need to use it. I know what I want and am willing to offer more than what is fair for our kids' well-being, but I also have a plan if we end up going to court. It's 100% on me that I'm suffering in silence, but I'm too stubborn to just give up. So while I am venting, I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for me. I endure it to keep the norm our kids know, ensure my mother-in-law's treatments go uninterrupted, and, of course, in the hope that my wife will finally be open to giving therapy a shot and that we can climb together to a better place. Thank you all again.